Now, welcome back to the Quirky Inquiry. A lot of stuff have changed. I kind of changed, and the background kind of changed, and recently, despite the fact that it was like 3 days, perhaps the most drastic change in my life just happened. I somewhat became self-aware that my habits are very akin to a minimalist. So I thought, why don't I just embrace the entire thing? And I've always had an inkling of decluttering stuff, and because my brain works in a very scattered fashion, so my surroundings have to be kept very orderly and very clean. And my possessions, I don't really want to think twice about my possessions, so it just made a lot of sense for me to declutter a bunch of stuff. And I don't know where this experiment's gonna go. Go check out my blog where I document some of the daily stuff that happens, because I don't know about you, but I hate carrying a camera around, so writing is just a way easier way for me to document my life. So video and blog works hand in hand. Blog documents my everyday life. Video shares insights from literature. So let's put myself aside. Today we're gonna talk about something so important that I'm so surprised that I haven't talked about this before, which is the idea of literary surrenderment. The idea that you have to sort of surrender the sense of self in order to get really deeply into a piece of literature. And this is something that I just began to realize a few days ago as I was reading Proust, reading Susskind's Perfume and Susskind's The Pigeon. By the way, both books are amazing. They're both, Perfume is not yet on a book list, but The Pigeon, I wrote a review for The Pigeon on a book list, so go check that out if you want. So basically, there's this general idea of sort of distinction within fiction. So you have your commercial fiction, which is the fiction, sort of like commercial television, for you to enjoy a great story. And there's literary fiction, which is more serious fiction, in which these books are typically a little harder to read, a little harder to get into. And the hard part of reading literary fiction is not restricted to the prose or restricted to the difficulty of language. I think there's a level beyond that which makes literary fiction that much harder to read. It's a completely different mindset to tackle fiction. Commercial fiction's for you to experience a great story without really having to change who you are. Think of going to a movie, like you're sitting there with your popcorn and with your Coca-Cola, and you're sitting there and you're watching a screen. Very, very, very cool and very relaxing. You're just sitting here vegging out. There's not much input from you, if that makes sense. You can read commercial fiction on a bus. You can read commercial fiction at a noisy cafe, because there's not that fundamental challenge for you to conjure up new imageries, for you to conjure up new, should I say, experiences? But with literary fiction, the whole point of literary fiction is to explore a part of the human condition, and it takes just so much more work for you to conjure up the things in a book, because literary fiction has a higher emphasis on experience. So it's going to make a lot of sense that you're going to have to dig through the experience of other people. Commercial fiction, you don't have to really dive that deeply into your characters. You care about the plot, not the people. But with literary fiction, each and every character is so rich, and these characters have such deep, sort of metaphysical convictions that it forces you to spend more time and more effort to dive into these fiction. And a mistake here is to sort of gloss over and rush yourself with a piece of literary fiction. And what's going to happen if you rush yourself is that you're going to be disappointed with the plot, because the plot is not that exciting. And if you don't spend the time on reading, really just throwing yourself in there, if you make the mistake of not spending enough time, for example, with Proust, with Susskind, with Joyce, you're going to really be disappointed at the end. You're going to think to yourself, well, that book was boring. And I think another level, a deeper level, in which when you read literary fiction, you're literally deconstructing your own identity, and then you're sort of dipping deeper into another person's experience. I don't know about you, to me that's a scary idea. Of being able to sympathize so much that you are literally living in another person's world with his or her experience. You're literally sort of surrendering the self, surrendering everything that you believe, everything that you hold as gospel, everything that you hold so dearly. Your convictions, your metaphysical beliefs, your aspirations, all that stuff needs to be surrendered, like just completely, and it's hard to do because human beings, we love our own little nests. So it's so hard for us to surrender that when time demands when you're reading literary fiction, where you can fully invest yourself into the experience, fully invest yourself into the sort of carry yourself through the rich emotions of the characters, carry yourself through the experience of reading the book. That's why when you read obscure books like Joyce or the works of Marcel Proust, Proust is tough, and also recently I've been really wanting to get into more Dostoevsky. Just the scary idea for impatient people, especially in the 21st century, everyone wants to do things on 5 times speed. Slowing down, for example, reading one page, one chapter at a time, finishing that chapter and then think about it for a day, and then coming back to that chapter and reread it again and sort of bask yourself in that experience. That, to me, it's where literary fiction is at. It's not about the quantity, it's about just this transformative experience. And I got that firsthand from Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man by Joyce, and that was a beautiful moment. And I wish more moments like that would come to me the more that I read, and more books that I reread. And that's one of the core philosophies that sort of drove me towards simplifying my bookshelf. Commercial fiction and self-help books, I've gotten rid of all of them on my shelf. I've left the essential classics, all the stuff that I think I'll come back and reread, and any books that I think that I'm gonna buy or really read, I'll get it on Kindle first and then give it a thorough read. And if I do like it, I'll purchase it then and stock it on my shelf. So thereby, that's all I have to communicate. Very important concept. It just occurred to me the other day, why didn't I make a video about this? It's not about the quantity, about the quality. You really have to surrender yourself into a piece of literature to get that just full-blown, amazing reading experience. Do it over a cup of tea. Do it over whatever. Dip yourself into the experience and you wouldn't be disappointed. RC Waldun here, signing off right now. Go check out the blog for more updates. Blog will be uploaded very frequently because I'm writing all the time. Writing sort of like my full-time thing. Working on a fiction, working on my second book, and also at the same time as I'm working on a second book, I'm also working on the blogs. And this YouTube channel right here is updated weekly on literature, on ways of reading, on ways of appreciating this art of literary fiction. See you guys next week for more goodies, and I shall be signing off right about now.